introduce our new irregular word aloud. Segment the word, finger tap its sounds. Focus on the irregular parts to learn by heart. Spell it on your arm, tap, then swipe all the parts.
It's time for us to learn our first irregular word, or sometimes we call these words heart words. And so we'll talk more about why that is. So this is the word the. What word is this? The word the. Can you say it? The. Now let's use the in a sentence. For example, I saw the dog in the park. Now you try using the in a sentence, and if you need to, you can pause the video. All right, let's figure out how many sounds are in the word the. We're going to finger tap those sounds to mark the sounds we hear. The first sound is th. The next sound is Put them together, the. What's the first sound? Th. And the next sound? The. So I hear two sounds in the word the. Now let's look at why this word is a word that we need to know by heart. So the first part of the word is the T and the H together. Now, since we haven't learned the rule about digraphs yet, it doesn't really make sense why we're pronouncing this as th. And that's why this part of the word is temporarily irregular, and it's a part we need to know by heart. We need to know that the T and the H, when they're together, make th. Now, let's look at the vowel in the word. We see the vowel E, but it's being pronounced as as if it were a short U, which is very strange. And that's a part we always need to know by heart because that's what makes this word irregular. We are pronouncing an E as and we definitely need to know that part by heart. So you can see we have a for now symbol, which is the blue square with the heart in it. And then we also have a permanently irregular symbol, which is the heart. And that's the part we'll always need to know by heart because there's not really a rule for that. Now let's practice spelling the word the. We're going to do that on our arm. So I'd like you to extend your arm out. We're going to tap each of the letters in the word and then blend them together. Here we go. T, H, E, the. Make sure you do it with me if you didn't already. T, H, E, the. And that is the word the. Today we're going to learn a new irregular word or heart word. The word is and. Can you say it with me? And. Let's use and in a sentence. For example, I have a cat and a dog. Now, can you try using and in a sentence? Pause if you need to. Now let's figure out how many sounds are in the word and. We're going to finger tap the sounds. What's the first sound we hear? A. And what's the next sound? N. And the last sound? D. Let's say them together. A, N, D. Let's do all three together. And. So I heard three sounds in the word and. Now let's look at that first sound. We hear A, and it's spelled with an A, but this is following the rule for the nasalized A sound, which we may not have learned yet. And if you haven't learned that sound, you don't know about how when the letter A is followed by the letter N, it can make a sound that sounds like it's coming through your nose, or the nasalized A. So for us, that means it could be a temporarily irregular word if we haven't learned that rule yet. All right, now let's spell the word and on our arm. Put your arm out and let's tap. A, N, D, and. Swipe them together. Let's do it together. Ready? A, N, D, and. It's time for us to learn our next new irregular word. Today we're going to learn the word I. Say it with me. I. Now let's use I in a sentence. For example, I love to read books. Now, can you try using it in a sentence? Pause if you need to. Now let's figure out how many sounds are in the word I. I have a feeling this is going to be pretty quick for us to figure out. All right, let's finger tap those sounds. The first sound that we hear in the word I is I. And there's only one sound. That's right. This is a word that's made with one letter and it has one sound. So why is this an irregular word? Well, we haven't learned about the long I sound yet. So for us, it's not following that typical short letter sound pattern. But when we know that the letter I can make a long I sound, or I, and not just eh, then that means we'll fully understand why this word sounds the way it does. All right, now let's spell this word on our arm. I think this is also going to be a pretty quick one. Ready? I. Can you do this one with me? I. And that is the word I. It's time for us to learn our new heart word or our new irregular word. Today we're talking about the word and. Say it with me. And. Now let's use the word and in a sentence. For example, I have a cat and a dog. Now you try using the word and in a sentence. Remember, you can pause if you need to. Okay, now let's figure out how many sounds are in the word and. We're going to finger tap those sounds. What's the first sound we hear? Eh. And what's the next sound we hear? And the last sound? D. Eh, d. Put them together. And. There are 3 sounds in the word and. Now let's look at what makes this word irregular. So the A sound is making a sound we're not used to hearing. It's making an eh. And that is the nasalized A. Now we haven't learned the rule yet about nasalized A, or maybe we have and we're reviewing it at this point. But if we haven't learned the rule, that's what makes this word temporarily irregular. So when you have a short A and an N, it sounds like it's coming through your nose, which is why when we say the word and, you actually feel a little bit of a buzzing in your nose. Say the word and. I feel my nose buzzing. And that is why this word is temporarily irregular. Also, the N and the D are making expected sounds, N and D. And so that's why they have the blue squares underneath them, because they are doing what we would expect them to do. All right, let's spell this word on our arm. Stick your arm out, please. And let's spell A-N-D, and. Let's do it again. A-N-D, and. And that is the word and. It's time for us to learn our next new irregular word. We're going to learn the word A. Say it with me. A. Let's use the word A in a sentence. For example, I see a cat. Now, the word A can also be pronounced a. And if we were using it in that way, we would say, I see a cat. And that's also correct. So let's figure out how many sounds are in the word A. We're going to finger tap the sounds. Again, I think this is probably going to be kind of a quick finger tap. Ready? What's the first sound we hear in A? A. And how many sounds are there? 1. Let's do it together. A. And how many sounds are there? There's the 1 sound. So we hear the long A sound in the word A, but we also hear the schwa sound depending on how someone says it. That schwa sound is when someone says the word A as a. So I see a cat or I see a cat, Both of those pronunciations are correct, but we haven't learned the rules yet about the long A or about the schwa sound. So that's why this word is irregular to us. Now let's do some arm tapping and spell this word. Let's practice spelling the word A. Again, probably going to be pretty quick. All right, put your arm out, write that first word or the first letter, A, and blend it, A. Let's do it again, but this time let's say it as the schwa sound. Ready? A. How do we pronounce it? And that is the word A, or It is time for us to learn our new irregular word. The word is. Say it with me, is. Now let's use the word is in a sentence. For example, the dog is happy. Now can you try using is in a sentence? All right, let's segment that word into its sounds. So let's get out our hand tapping fingers and figure out how many sounds are in the word is. We're going to finger tap the sounds. What's the first sound? I. What's the second sound? Z. Put them together. Is. Do it with me. First sound, I. Next sound, Z. Put them together. Is. Now let's look at why this word is irregular and why it has parts we need to know by heart. So let's look at that last sound in is. We hear the sound Z, but it's spelled with the letter S. We haven't learned the spelling rule yet. So this part of the word is temporarily irregular, or a by heart part, because we haven't learned the rule yet. Eventually, or perhaps already at this point, you've learned that rule, and so you know why this word is pronounced is. And that's why we have that temporary heart under the letter S. Now let's spell the word on our arms. Stick your arm out, and here we go. I-S, is. Let's do it again. Make sure if you didn't do it with me the first time, you do it with me now. I-S, is. And that is the word is. It is time for us to learn our new heart word, or our new irregular word. The word is as. Say it with me. As. Now let's use as in a sentence. For example, she ran as fast as she could. Now you try using as in a sentence, and remember, you can pause if you need to. Now let's figure out how many sounds are in the word as. Let's get our finger tapping hands ready so we can tap out the sounds. The first sound is a, and the next sound is z. Put them together, as. All right, let's do it again. One more time. A, z, as. There are two sounds in the word as. Now let's figure out what makes this word a heart word. If we look at that second letter, the S, we hear the z sound, but it's spelled with S. Now we might not have learned the rule yet about how sometimes the letter S can make a z sound and not just a s sound. So that's why this word is in the temporarily irregular category, and it has that blue square with the heart inside it. So that's the part we need to learn by heart. That's why we pronounce the word as with the z at the end. Now let's practice spelling it on our arm. Stick your arm out, please. A-S, as. Let's do it again. A-S, as. And that is the word as. Here is our new irregular word. It's the word said. Say it with me. Said. All right, now let's use said in a sentence. For example, she said hello to her friend. Now you try using said in a sentence. Let's figure out how many sounds we hear in the word said. We're going to finger tap those sounds. The first sound, s. Next sound, last sound, d. said, said. Let's do it again. S-E-D, said. There are 3 sounds in the word said. Now let's focus on what are the parts of the word that make this parts we need to know by heart. Now, if we look in the middle of the word, we see an A and an I, but we hear the sound E, E. Now, this is unexpected because those 2 letters together as a vowel team are not making the sound we'd expect. Often, if we see A and I together as a team, which is a rule we'll learn later, they make the sound A. But not today. In the word said, they're making the sound E, as if it were a short E. And because of that unexpected part of this word, we need to learn it by heart. Now, the nice thing of this word is that it's sort of sandwiched between 2 regular sounds because we have the S making a sound we expect, S, and the D making a sound we expect, D. And that's why we need to know that little middle bit by heart because this is a word we see all the time. So the word is said. Now let's practice spelling said on our arm. Stick your arm out and we will tap out the letters. S-A-I-D. Said. Let's do it again. S-A-I-D. Said. And that is the word said. This is the word to. Today we're going to learn about why this word is an irregular word. The word is to. Can you say it with me? To. Let's use to in a sentence. For example, I go to school. Now you try using it in a sentence. Okay, so let's figure out how many sounds are in the word to. We're going to finger tap those sounds. The first sound, t. The next sound, ooh. Together, two. Let's do it again. T, oo, two. Now let's focus on why this word is irregular. Please look at the vowel sound or the O. When we hear the sound in the word, we're hearing ooh, but it's spelled with the letter O. This is the heart part of the word because it doesn't follow the rules we've learned so far. And that's why we need to know this word by heart. The other thing that's interesting about to is there's more than one version of the word to. For example, if we're counting and we say 1, 2, 3, this is different than the number 2. So when you see T-O, we're not talking about the number 2. Now let's practice spelling this on our arms. Please stick your arm out and let's arm tap. T-O, 2. Let's do it again together. T-O, 2. And that is the word to. This is the word do, and we're going to learn why the word do is a word we need to learn by heart. Can you say the word do? Do. Now let's use do in a sentence. For example, I do my homework. Now you try using do in a sentence. So let's figure out how many sounds are in the word do. We're going to finger tap those sounds. The first sound, d. The next sound, oo. Do. Let's do it again. D, oo, do. There are 2 sounds in the word do. Now let's focus on the by heart parts. When we see the word do, we see the D is doing what we'd expect it to do. It's making the sound D, but the O is making the oo sound. And we do not expect that with our letter O when it's all by itself like that. And so that's why that's the part of this word that we need to learn by heart. This word is do. And the heart is to help us remember that it's the by heart part. Let's tap this word on our arms. D-O, do. Do it again. D-O, do. And that is the word do. is our heart word for today. This is the word of. Now let's learn together why this is a word we need to know by heart. Let's say the word of. Of. Now let's use of in a sentence. For example, I have a lot of books. I have a lot of books. Now you try using the word in a sentence. Now you try using the word of in a sentence. Now let's figure out how many sounds are in the word of. We're going to finger tap those sounds. The first sound, The next sound, v. Together, of. Let's do it again. V, of. There are 2 sounds in the word of. Now let's look at why this word is a word we need to learn by heart. There's actually 2 reasons why we need to learn it by heart. The first part is the letter O is not making an expected letter O sound. It's making the sound as if it were the letter U. So that's unexpected. And the next part that's irregular is that the letter F is making the sound V, as if it were the letter V. So that's why sometimes kids think that the word of is spelled UV, but it's not. It's spelled OF. So both parts of this word are irregular, which means we definitely need to know it by heart. Let's practice spelling it on our arm. O-F, of. Again, O-F, of. And that is the word of. Our next word for us to learn is the word see. The word is see. Can you say it with me? See. Now let's use the word see in a sentence. For example, I see a bird in that tree. Now, can you try using see in a sentence? Pause if you need to. All right, let's segment this word into its individual sounds using our finger tapping. What's the first word? What's the first sound? S. And what's the next sound? E. That's 2 sounds. See. Let's do it again. S, E, see. Now let's look at why this word is irregular. When we look, we see the S making the S making the S sound, which is expected. But then we see those 2 letter E's together. Now we haven't learned this spelling pattern yet, so this part of the word is temporarily irregular, or for now, a by heart part. And so when we see those 2 E's together, it's telling us to make the sound E. So we have S, E. Now let's practice tapping that out on our arm, those letters. S, E, E, C. Let's do it again. S, E, E, see. And that is the word see. Our next word we're learning is the word he. This is our new heart word, and let's say it together. He. Let's use he in a sentence. For example, he is my friend. Now you try using he in a sentence. Let's figure out how many sounds are in the word he. Let's finger tap those sounds. H, E, he. Do it again with me. H, E, he. There are 2 sounds in the word he. Now let's look at why this word is irregular. That first sound, the h, that's expected. The H is doing what we expect an H to do. But then we hear the E making the sound, the long sound, E. And that's a by heart part because we don't expect when we see an E by itself like that to just be making the long E sound. So that's why this is a part of the word that we need to learn by heart. In this word, the H is making H and the E is making E, that long E. All right, let's tap it out on our arms. H, E, he. Do it again. H, E, he. And that is the word he. this is the word be, and it's our new irregular word to learn. What word is this? Be. Say it with me. Be. Now let's use be in a sentence. For example, I want to be a good friend. Now you try using be in a sentence. Let's figure out how many sounds are in the word be. We're going to finger tap those sounds. The first sound, b. The next sound, e. Be. Let's do it again. B, e, be. There are 2 sounds in the word be. Now let's focus on what are the parts of this word that are irregular. That first part, the be, is making a regular sound. It's making b. But that e, we would expect it to be making a short e sound, but it's not. It's making a long e sound. And because that e is making a long e sound, we need to learn it by heart. So this word is be, be. And that heart helps us remember the part we need to learn by heart. Now let's practice spelling it on our arm. B-E, be. Again, B-E, be. And that is the word be. Our word for today is the word me, like me. So we are going to be learning why the word me is a heart word. Can you say it with me? Me. Let's use me in a sentence. For example, can you help me? Now you try using me in a sentence. Let's figure out how many sounds are in the word me. We're going to finger tap those sounds. What's the first sound we hear? And the next sound? E. Me. Do it again. E. Me. There are 2 sounds in the word me. Now let's focus on why this word's irregular. That first letter, the M, is making an expected sound. But the next letter, that E, instead of making a short E sound, it's making a long E sound, E. And that's unexpected, so we need to learn that part by heart. So this word is me, me. Now let's arm tap it on our arm so we can spell it. M-E, me. Again, M-E, me. And that is the word me. Next word for us to learn is the word from. We're going to learn why the word from is the word we need to know by heart. The word is from. Say it with me. From. Now let's use from in a sentence. For example, she is from a small town. Now you use from in a sentence. Now let's figure out how many sounds are in the word from. We're going to finger tap those sounds. First sound, f. Next sound, next sound, last sound, Oh wow, there's 4 sounds in from. Let's do it again. From. Let's do it again. From. There are 4 sounds in the word from. So why is this sound, or why is this word irregular? Well, the F is making an expected sound. The R is making an expected sound, but that U, or not the U, the O is sounding like a U. Instead of making an ah sound, it's making an sound, as if it were a U, but it's not, it's an O. And then that M is also making an expected sound. So the part of the word from that we really need to know by heart is that the O is doing something unexpected. All right, so put that in your heart bank of words, and let's go ahead and spell it on our arm. F-R-O-M, from. Let's do it again. F-R-O-M, from. And that is the word from. this is our new word to learn. This is the word look. And today we're going to learn why look is one of our heart words. So the word is look. Say it with me. Look. Let's use look in a sentence. For example, I like to look at the stars. Now you try using look in a sentence. And if you need to, pause the video. Now let's figure out how many sounds are in the word look. We're going to finger tap those sounds. What's the first sound that we hear in look? L. Next sound, last sound, k. 3 sounds, look. Let's do it again. L, k, look. Now let's focus on what is irregular about this word. The L and the K are making expected sounds, but those 2 O's together are making and we have not learned that rule yet. So therefore, we need to know that part by heart. This is making look, look. All right, so let's spell it on our arms now that we know about the specialness of this word. L-O-O-K, look. L-O-O-K, look. And I remember there's a little rhyme I had learned about this when I was little that's L-O-O-K, look, look, look. L-O-O-K, look, look, look. So perhaps that will help you remember it too. All right, that is the word look. The next word we're going to learn in our heart word series or our irregular word series is the word book. The word is book. Say it with me, book. Now let's use book in a sentence. For example, I am reading a great book right now. Now you try using book in a sentence. Let's segment the word into its sounds and figure out how many sounds are in the word book. Let's finger tap. B, k, book. Let's do it again. B, k, book. I hear 3 sounds in the word book. Now let's look at what makes this word irregular. The B is doing an expected thing and the K is doing an expected thing, but those 2 O's together are making the sounds and we haven't learned about that yet. So that's why this word is irregular. So this word is book, book. Now let's spell it on our arms. B-O-O-K, book. Again, B-O-O-K, book. And that is the word book. And it rhymes with the word look. Is the word are. And are is our new heart word. The word is are. Say it with me, are. Now let's use are in a sentence. For example, we are friends. Now you try using are in a sentence. Let's figure out together how many sounds are in the word are. We're going to finger tap those sounds. What's the first sound? Ah, and the next sound, Ah, R. Let's do it again. Ooh, we just sounded like a pirate. R. Now let's focus on the parts of this word that we need to learn by heart. When we look at this word and we hear this word, we hear R. But the letters are A, R, E. And we haven't really learned yet about the rule with an E at the end of a word. So we would expect this word to say air, because the E is helping out that A, but that's not what's happening with this word. We pronounce this word R. So the unexpected part of this word is the E at the end because it's not doing the job that we expect it to do. So what word is this? R. Now let's practice spelling it on our arm. A-R-E, R. Again, A-R-E-R. And that is the word are. This is the word was, and was is our new heart word. The word is was. Say it with me, was. Now let's use was in a sentence. For example, she was at school. Now you try using this word in a sentence. Let's figure out how many sounds are in the word was. We're going to finger tap those sounds. The first sound, w. The next sound, The last sound, z. Was. Let's do it again. Z. Was. There are 3 sounds in the word was. Now let's focus on what makes this irregular. When we look at the first sound, we see the W, and it is making an expected sound. It's saying w. But then we get to the A and the S. The A is making the sound as if it were a U, but it's not a U, it's an A. So we need to learn that part by heart. And the Z, or the S, is making a Z sound, which we haven't learned about yet, but sometimes the S does that. So this is was. There are several parts of this word that we need to learn by heart. Let's practice spelling it on our arm. W-A-S, was. Can you do that? W-A-S, was. And this is the word was. The word you. You is our new heart word, and we're going to learn why this is an irregular word. So the word is you. Say it with me, you. Now let's use the word you in a sentence. For example, you are my friend. Now you try using you in a sentence. Remember, you can pause if you need to. So let's figure out how many sounds are in the word you. Let's finger tap. Y, oo, you. Again, y, oo, you. There are 2 sounds in the word you. Now let's look at what makes this word irregular. The Y is making an expected sound. It's saying y. Now let's look at the O and the U together. We hear oo, which is not what we expect from that vowel team when they're together. The O and the U together are a vowel team, but they're not making their expected vowel team sound. Instead, they're saying oo, and that's the part of this word that we need to know by heart. So we have you, and the heart helps us remember the by heart part. All right, let's spell this out on our arm. Y-O-U, you. Again, make sure you do it with me. Y-O-U, you. And that is the word you. Our new irregular word is the word what. And today we're going to learn why we need to know parts of it by heart. The word is what. Say it with me. What? Let's use what in a sentence. For example, what is your name? Now you try using what in a sentence. Let's figure out how many sounds are in the word what. We're going to finger tap those sounds together. The first sound, w. The next sound, last sound, t. What? Let's do it again. W, t. What? There are 3 sounds in the word what. Now let's look at what makes this word irregular. Now we have the W and the H together, and we haven't learned about that pattern yet. However, the part that makes this really irregular is that letter A. The letter A is making the short U sound. And we don't expect that. We expect the A to make the A sound, like a short A, but that's not happening in the word what. So we have the WH, which are temporarily irregular for the digraph rule we haven't learned yet, making the sound w. And then we have the A making So we need to know those parts by heart so that we can read and write this word. What? Now let's put it on our arms together. W-H-A-T, what? W-H-A-T, what? And that is the word what. Our new heart word is the word have. Have. And we're going to learn why this is an irregular word. So the word is have. Can you say it? Have. Let's use have in a sentence. For example, I have a dog. Now you try using have in a sentence. Let's figure out how many sounds are in the word have. Let's finger tap those sounds together. What's the first sound? Next, a, last, v. Have. Let's do it again. A, v, have. There are 3 sounds in the word have. Now let's look at what is irregular about this word. Well, we have an E at the end of this word. And the rule about E's at the end of word is the silent E rule, which we may not have learned yet. But when we see a silent E at the end of a word, we typically expect that the first vowel that we see in that word is going to be saying its name, a long A. So we would actually expect this word to sound have, have, but it doesn't. It's have, which means the silent E is the unexpected part of this word because this word does not represent that long A sound that we would expect. So we need to learn by heart that this word have is have. Okay, now let's spell have on our arms. H-A-V-E, have. Again, H-A-V-E, have. And that is the word have.